Captain Hirek of the Zenari Empire stood rigid in the docking bay, his four eyes narrowing as the human squad disembarked their shuttle. His exoskeletal armor gleamed under the station's artificial light, polished to a mirror sheen. Precision, order, discipline, these were the tenets of war. The humans did not embody any of them. The first one out, Lieutenant Jake Carter, adjusted the strap of his patched-together engineering kit. His uniform was regulation, barely, but the lopsided grin he wore suggested a disrespect for proper decorum. Behind him, Corporal Aisha Patel practically bounced down the ramp, her eyes wide with excitement, as if she were stepping onto an alien battlefield for the sheer thrill of it. Then came Private Rico Vargas, slouching, smirking, and juggling a protein ration bar between his hands. Undisciplined, disruptive, a wild card, Hirek inhaled sharply, his mandibles clicking together in restrained dismay. These were his reinforcements. "Welcome to Outpost Velranic," he said, his voice clipped and formal. "You are late." Carter's grin widened. "You're lucky we're here at all. Command tried sending us to the wrong sector. We had to, convince them otherwise." Hirek did not like the sound of that. Orders were orders. They were not convinced. They were followed. "We were assigned to you for a reason, sir," Patel said, her tone infuriatingly chipper. "Humans have a way of getting things done." Hirek had reviewed the files. Humans had a reputation for unconventional tactics, for adapting in ways other species found incomprehensible. The Empire admired precision. The Kralaf reveled in brutality. Humans, they thrived in chaos. It made them unpredictable, and that was what unsettled him most. No matter. This was war, not an experiment in cross-species tolerance. He turned, leading them into the station's war room. A massive holographic display dominated the chamber, a shifting topographical map of their target. Kralaf Fortress Gorvash, a linchpin in the Dominion supply chain. If they destroyed it, the enemy war effort would be thrown into disarray. "This mission is high risk," Hirek said. "Fortress Gorvash is shielded, heavily fortified, and reinforced with Kralaf infantry. Direct assault is impossible. Our only option is sabotage." Carter whistled low. "That's not a fortress. That's a death trap." Indeed, Hirek zoomed in on a narrow exhaust port on the fortress's eastern side. This vent leads directly to the fusion core. A demolition charge, placed correctly, will cripple their energy grid long enough for a fleet-wide assault. Our mission is to infiltrate and plant that charge. "Wait," Vargas said, raising a hand. "Let me get this straight. You want us to sneak into an enemy stronghold, avoid getting turned into decorative wall smears, and blow up their power source?" Hirek's mandibles twitched. "Yes." Vargas grinned. "I like it." Hirek ignored him. "The enemy patrols are regimented. We will move in teams of 2. Patel, you will provide overwatch from the ridge. Carter and I will set the charge. Vargas, you will—" "Create a distraction," Vargas interrupted, already rubbing his hands together. "Oh, I can do that." Hirek did not know why, but that statement filled him with unease. "I should clarify," he said slowly. "A subtle distraction. The enemy must not suspect sabotage." Vargas nodded solemnly. "Absolutely. Subtle." Then he turned to Carter and whispered, "I'm thinking explosives." Hirek's eye twitched. This was going to be a disaster. Hours later, the squad was crammed inside a stealth drop pod, hurtling toward the war-scarred surface of Velranic 4. Hirek sat rigid as turbulence rattled through the craft, while the humans chatted as if they were on a leisurely transport. "You ever notice how all these alien war names sound super menacing?" Patel mused. Velranic, Gorvash. It's never something nice like, I don't know, Planet Steve. Carter snorted. "Steve's not an intimidating name." Vargas grinned. "Imagine a warlord screaming, 'For the glory of Steve.'" The humans erupted into laughter, and Hirek sincerely questioned if Command had assigned him warriors or lunatics. The drop pod jolted. Final descent. Hirek refocused, suppressing his irritation. The mission was all that mattered. Landing in 30 seconds, the onboard AI announced. Carter cracked his knuckles. All right, team. Ready to make history. Hirek turned to them, scanning their faces. Carter, the problem solver, always thinking ahead. Patel, the dreamer, finding hope in the darkness. Vargas, the wild card, unpredictable but strangely effective. For all their flaws, there was something unsettlingly effective about them. The pod slammed into the ground, metal groaning as the hatch hissed open. Dust and smoke billowed around them. The stench of war thickened the air. Hirek stepped out first, scanning the ridge line. Fortress Gorvash loomed ahead, an impenetrable citadel of steel and plasma barriers. A suicide mission. And yet, he glanced back at his squad, watching as Carter checked his gear, Patel steadied her rifle, and Vargas grinned like a madman about to do something profoundly stupid. Perhaps not. Move out, Hirek ordered. As the humans followed, a quiet realization settled in his mind. Either they would all perish in the fires of Gorvash, or the Kralaf were about to witness something truly terrifying. The wind howled across the barren landscape of Velranik, for as the squad crouched behind a rocky outcrop, gazing at the towering Fortress Gorvash. "We've got patrols every 5 minutes," Patel reported, her scope trained on the enemy movements. Automated turrets along the walls, heavy infantry stationed at the entrance, and, oh, lovely, shock drones on perimeter sweeps. "Stealth it is," Carter muttered, adjusting his gear. "Hirek, you still think this vent is our best shot?" "It is our only shot," Hirek said, his voice tight. "The vent is accessible during a cooling cycle in precisely 6 minutes. If we miss that window, it will remain sealed for another hour. All right, let's move." Carter signaled Patel to take position, while he and Hirek darted toward the fortress perimeter. Vargas, to no one's surprise, had already vanished. Vargas had his own plans. While the others crept toward their objective, he skirted around the southern side, where Kralaf Munitions Depot squatted behind a thin force field. A subtle distraction, Hirek had said. Vargas smirked. "That's objective." He palmed an explosive charge from his vest and whistled as he set the timer. Nothing too big, just enough to rattle the bad guys. As he placed the device, movement caught his eye. A group of Kralaf soldiers, just meters away, marching his direction. "Oh, crap!" He pressed flat against a crate as the hulking aliens strode past, their guttural language a mix of snarls and guttural clicks. Too close. The timer on his charge blinked. 0:10. Vargas grinned. Time to go. With a flick of his wrist, he lobbed a small incendiary charge into a stack of supply crates just beyond the depot. It detonated with a flashbang explosion, sending fiery debris and thick plumes of smoke into the sky. The Kralaf soldiers roared in confusion, their weapons drawn as they scrambled for cover. Vargas took the opportunity to slip away, sprinting along the shadows of the fortress wall. Chaos had begun. Meanwhile, Carter and Hirek reached the vent, hugging the shadows as a drone hovered past. Hirek worked quickly, deactivating the access panel with practiced efficiency. The vent hissed open. "Go!" Hirek ordered. Carter crawled in first, followed by Hirek. The tunnel was cramped, humid, and stank of burning metal, but it led them exactly where they needed to go. Then the explosion hit. The ground shook violently. A plume of fire and smoke erupted from the southern depot, sending alarms blaring across the fortress. Hirek's eyes widened in horror. What'd he do? Carter grimaced. Something profoundly stupid, probably. The fortress defenses mobilized, but instead of reinforcing the interior, they scrambled toward the explosion. "Vargas, you magnificent lunatic," Carter whispered. "You just cleared our path." Hirek exhaled slowly, a mixture of exasperation and reluctant admiration flashing across his features. Perhaps there was something to be said about chaos after all. Carter tapped his comm Patel. Cover Vargas and get ready for exfil. We're heading for the core." They moved deeper into the vent, while outside, the fortress burned and the Kralath scrambled, completely unaware of the true threat within. The mission had begun in earnest. Inside the fortress, Carter and Hirek moved swiftly through the ventilation shaft, the air heavy with the scent of burning plasma and overheated metal. Vargas's distraction outside had drawn away many of the Kralath, but remnants still lurked in the shadows. A deep, constant rumble from the reactor reminded them of their target. Hirek checked his wrist display. The main chamber is 50 meters ahead. We have a narrow window to plant the charge before reinforcements arrive. As they advanced, a sharp metallic clang echoed down the duct. Both soldiers paused. A second clang followed, then a low, snuffling sound. "Something's here with us," Carter whispered. From the gloom, a Kralath sentry drone emerged. Its insectoid frame scuttled along the ceiling, red sensors scanning the narrow passage. "Damn it," Carter hissed. "Keep moving." Drawing his plasma pistol, Carter fired a burst at the approaching drone. The bolt struck, and though the drone shuddered, it kept moving. Hirek growled, "Your weapon isn't enough for that tech." Quickly, Carter yanked a multi-tool from his belt and jammed it into a junction box on the vent wall. Sparks erupted as the circuit overloaded, and the vent slammed shut behind them, crushing the drone in a burst of alien fluids and electricity. Messy but effective, Hirek admitted. They dropped through an access hatch into the reactor room, a vast chamber dominated by a towering fusion core pulsating with swirling blue energy. Control panels flickered along the walls, their lights dancing in rhythm with the reactor's hum. Carter quickly retrieved the demolition charge from his pack. "Let's make some fireworks," he said, setting the charge carefully against the core's base. Every connection had to be precise, or the explosion could trigger a meltdown. Before he could finish, the room's calm was shattered by a blaring alarm. Red lights bathed the chamber as the fortress went on high alert. Hirek's comm crackled with urgency from Corporal Patel. "Carter, you've got 2 minutes before enemy reinforcements breach this chamber." Hirek's eyes narrowed. "Then we have no time to waste. Complete the sequence." As Carter's fingers worked quickly on the charge's final configuration, the massive reactor door burst open. A towering Kralath commander entered, flanked by armored warriors. Their weapons glinted in the emergency light as they advanced with ruthless precision. Hirek leveled his rifle. "We make every second count," he roared. Carter pressed a final button on the demolition charge. "Hope Vargas has something big planned," he remarked with a confident grin. The countdown began, each tick echoing like a heartbeat in the tense silence. Blasters ignited. Plasma bolts streaked through the chamber as the Kralath warriors surged forward. Hirek's disciplined shots met the alien onslaught, every burst a testament to Zenari precision. Carter ducked behind a control panel as energy bolts ricocheted off the reinforced walls. The Kralath commander, his armor spiked and menacing, charged directly at Hirek. In a brutal exchange, the captain's measured strikes clashed with raw alien strength. Sparks flew as metal met metal. Carter, focused on his task, felt the weight of every second as the charge's timer continued its relentless countdown. With the enemy closing in and chaos erupting around them, a sudden, massive explosion rocked the fortress. The demolition charge detonated, unleashing a blinding flash of blue-white energy. The fusion core erupted violently, sending shards of molten plasma and debris flying. The explosion shattered control panels and sent the advancing Kralath reeling. In the deafening aftermath, the reactor chamber became a scene of utter chaos. Hirek and Carter fought their way through disoriented warriors, the shockwave from the explosion buying them precious moments. Amid the swirling smoke and falling debris, the two men managed to retreat into a secondary corridor. Carter, clutching a wound at his side, let out a breathy laugh. "That was one hell of a fireworks show," he said, half amused despite the danger. Hirek's expression was grim but resolute. "We struck a blow today. But the fight isn't over. We need to move, now. They raced down the corridor, debris and enemy shouts echoing behind them. The path was treacherous, yet every step they took carried the weight of a hard-won victory. In a narrow escape passage lit only by flickering emergency panels, they paused briefly to catch their breath. Patel's unit is holding the eastern corridor, Hirek noted. Glancing at his wrist comm, we regroup there and plan our next move. Carter nodded, determination shining through his exhaustion. I never doubted that our chaos was our strength. Let's keep this fire burning. As they stepped out into the relative safety of a holding area where survivors gathered, Hirek's voice rang clear. Today, we showed that even in the heart of enemy power, our defiance can shatter their order. The war continues, but so does our fight. The corridor's dim light and distant alarms bore silent witness to their resolve. In that moment, every scar, every sacrifice, was a promise that humanity would endure, adapt, and overcome. The day's victory was but one chapter in the struggle, a spark that would ignite the rebellion to come. The ruined corridors of Fortress Gorvash trembled in the aftermath of the reactor's cataclysm. Amid collapsing metal and billowing smoke, Captain Hirek and Lieutenant Carter surged through debris-choked passageways. Every footstep bore the weight of a hard-fought victory and the scars of defiance. Carter led the way, his boots striking uneven ground as memories of the reactor explosion and brutal melee with the Kralath commanders surged in his mind. We made them blink, he murmured, the thrill of survival mingling with grim resolve. Hirek, his four eyes reflecting the red emergency glow and the embers of destruction, moved with measured caution. His disciplined gaze betrayed an internal struggle, a lifetime of Zenari order now challenged by the raw, chaotic ingenuity of his human allies. Every shattered panel and scorched wall was proof that rigid doctrine could be shattered by a spark of creative rebellion. They emerged into a wide atrium where Corporal Patel and Private Vargas awaited amid ruins. Patel's steady eyes scanned for threats, while Vargas leaned casually against a fallen column, his grin a bold challenge to the chaos around them. Status? Hirek demanded, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. Patel's calm crackled with urgency. Our unit's holding the eastern corridor, but enemy forces are regrouping. We have little time. Vargas chuckled. Our little fireworks show threw them off. Now they scramble in the dark. His tone was mischievous, a sharp contrast to the grim reality they faced. Hirek's mandibles twitched as he considered their recent triumph. Today, our chaos became a weapon. We've upended expectations and redefined the rules of engagement, he observed, his voice a blend of respect and determination. Coordinating quickly over secure comm channels, the squad pressed toward a narrow exit that led to the Zenari fleet's transit hub. The air in the passage was cooler but still heavy with the acrid scent of burnt metal and spent plasma. Every step forward was a defiant act against an enemy that had never imagined such unorthodox tactics. Carter's thoughts flickered between tactical calculations and personal memories, the faces of comrades lost in the fierce, unpredictable spirit that defined humanity. I once thought our unpredictability was our curse, he confided quietly to Hirek as they navigated a crumbling archway. But today it was our salvation. Hirek's reply was measured, his voice low but resolute. In every rigid system lies a weakness. Your chaos exploited that flaw. Adaptability is not merely survival. It is strategy. Their path twisted through darkened corridors until they reached the transit hub, a stark contrast to the ruined fortress. The Zenari fleet's crystalline lines and regimented design clashed with the ragged, battle-worn appearance of the human squad. Here, Zenari officers gathered, their expressions a mix of astonishment and cautious admiration. Whispers spread among them of a human madness that had shattered the enemy's resolve. In a briefing room aboard the flagship, Hirek recounted the mission with precise detail. Carter described the improvised demolition and near-miraculous escape. Patel outlined how enemy formations broke under unexpected pressure, and Vargas, ever the wild card, provided a reverent commentary that underscored the success of their plan. The assembled officers listened intently, their skepticism slowly giving way to recognition of a new, unsettling advantage. A high-ranking officer leaned forward, his voice thoughtful. "Your unorthodox methods have sown terror in our enemies' ranks. They now fear the unpredictable might of your approach." Hirek's gaze hardened as he considered the broader implications. If our enemies tremble at the thought of our chaos, then we wield a weapon beyond mere firepower, a psychological blow that undermines their discipline. Later that evening, in the quiet hum of the fleet's common area, Hirek recorded a personal log. "Today, I witnessed the power of creative defiance. Our human allies have shown that the unyielding spirit of chaos can shatter the confines of rigid order. This victory is not just tactical. It is a promise that innovation will light the way through oppression." His words were both a confession and a vow, a recognition that the nature of warfare was evolving. The Kralaf would now confront not only the discipline of the Zenari, but also the unpredictable, fierce resolve of humanity. Reunited in the transit hub, the squad, marked by fatigue yet unbowed, stood together as a testament to their newfound strength. Patel's steady determination, Carter's resilient grin, Vargas's mischievous defiance, and Hirek's tempered resolve symbolized a unity forged in the crucible of battle. "Let this day remind us," Hirek declared, addressing both his team and the assembly of Zenari officers, "that even in the heart of the enemy's domain, our defiant spirit can overcome. Our unorthodox methods have not only saved lives, they have reshaped the battlefield." As his words resonated in the hushed corridors of the fleet, a quiet understanding passed among the soldiers. The boundaries between order and chaos had blurred, revealing that both were essential to true strength. With the fleet preparing for its next move, the promise of future battles shimmered on the horizon, a future in which every act of defiance would kindle hope and challenge tyranny. In that fading light, the squad stepped forward into an uncertain tomorrow, each step echoing with defiant determination. The war was far from over, but the spark of rebellion had been kindled, a beacon that would guide them through the darkness ahead.